I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yeah, hi everybody. Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Welcome to another episode, and today we have a friend of mine who I don't know a lot about her story, which is good because I like to not know a lot about your story because I want to have the same response as what the audience has. So today we have Chee. Thank you very much for coming to The Truth About Addiction, Chee.
Thanks for having me.
And what's the Chee story?
All right, here we go. So I was born in Mackay, Queensland in 1984, and I was first generation Australian. My mum's white English lady and my father's Chinese Malaysian. And my parents got divorced really early on in life, and we moved down to the Gold Coast, and my mum remarried a white Aussie guy like a couple of years later. So when I was younger, I looked a lot more Asian than I do now. We moved out to a country town. My brothers and sisters all have blonde hair, blue eyes. So from a really early on age, I didn't really fit in anywhere. And this small town that I was raised in was kind of like quite racist at the time. And I just become like conditioned to that sort of treatment, like and like the jokes about Nikki Chink and stuff like that. And I just kind of like integrated it in my upbringing, and I took on a caretaker role really early. Like my brothers and sisters, like 10, 8, and 6 years younger than me. My parents are alcoholics, and as I got a bit older, it started to get really violent in my teenage years. Like I remember, like it was physically abusive and also psychologically, emotionally abusive. I remember my parents getting physical with me and accusing me of being a slut, and I was still a virgin. So it was like the physical abuse, I could like, and then the name calling and stuff like that, and the put down, the racism, I could deal with because that was like blatant, obvious abuse. But it was the that real head fucky sort of stuff that's really had an effect on me, like taking my reality away. And I remember I was also always a really good student, and I was always like just wanting to seek the approval of my mother. And after a few experiences like that, and I remember our house got robbed once, and they locked me on the veranda and called the police, saying that I had something to do with it. So from a really early on, I learnt, like, I started to get really angry in my teens. I was like, fuck you, how dare you take my reality away from me? And I was always on the back foot, always on the back foot, ready to attack like a caged cat. Needless to say, like a little bit after that, maybe 14 or 15, I picked up pot and alcohol. And when I finally did lose my virginity, I think that I was addicted to sex and love as well. And that's something that's just come up for me in my recovery lately. And that's kind of, I think is my core stuff. And then I use substances on top of that to fill the void that I felt after like having an interaction with somebody. And then I like got kicked out of home early, and had a few experiences with like prescription drugs and stuff. And then by the time I was 17, I was pregnant, and I had my daughter by the time I was 18, sorry. And then after that, I used to just smoke pot and drink a lot of alcohol through my 20s. And I was in a relationship from the age of 20 to 30 with a much older man. He was about 15 years older than me. This is when I first really started to notice that sex and love addiction and the obsession with another person, trying to fill that void with another person. And I never saw it as anything negative. I always thought, like as women, we're conditioned to, have this idea of love and infatuation and marriage and loyalty and monogamy. And I just wanted my, my house, my white picket fence, my husband, and a good job and 2 kids, I was always like the perpetrator of violence. I remember being so obsessed, I would shower with the bathroom door open so I could see if this guy was trying to leave me, One time I was in the driveway, like on his back, naked, punching him in the side of the head, and just always getting into these tussles on the alcohol, and during that time I like got a university degree. I got a Bachelor of Applied Science and honours degree. I used to do biomedical research for TRI down at Brisbane. I got my car and my kid and my cat and my house, and on the outside everything looks really, really manageable and like it's, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. But I was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. I was just so jealous, so bitter, so obsessed with this person. I completely neglected my daughter in terms of like attachment and attunement. And at this stage, I was like going to a lot of music festivals and stuff and taking some party drugs and that. And then when I was 29, I was going to a festival with my brother, and he couldn't get any party drugs, so he showed up with a big bag of meth. And I was like, I had always dealt pot all the way through university to like supplement my income. So, and I lived in inner city Brisbane, so I knew like a lot of people that use speed and methamphetamines, but I never wanted any part of it. And my brother was like, oh, can't sis, it's just for the weekend, you know. And I thought, oh, I'll just be like every other drug that I've taken, party drug I've taken, and go back to work on Monday, Tuesday, and I'll be fine, you know. As soon as I had that first bit, I was like, wow, where have you been all my life? That void and that miserable bitterness and jealousy and obsession for this other person was just all of a sudden filled with this drug. And my whole world turned on its head. So it was like every weekend after that, and then every day, and like I was using meth just, and like then going to work and doing like all these time point experiments, and like staying awake for 20 days, and I'd fall asleep like with my hands in the tissue culture hood at work and my head on the glass, and in lab meetings just like cooked as, like carrying on high off my head. And I'm thinking that, you know, I had it all together, and I was just trying to like revolutionize the biomedical industry, you know. And yeah, like within 16 months, I think it was, my daughter had gone to my parents' house. I'd lost my house. My truck had been stolen. I'd lost my job. My husband went to prison and ended up getting deported. And yeah, I was running around on the streets of like Kangaroo Point, Fortitude Valley, like in traps, trying to like slang packets of gear. And the funny thing was, at the time, early on in that meth addiction, I felt like I was the freest that I've ever been, because I didn't have any responsibilities, but I was also free from this self-imposed prison that I put in my head, you know, of letting this other person modulate my behavior and how my feelings and stuff like that. I never had any awareness about like taking like personal responsibility or self-awareness or spirituality or anything like that. And I came from my parents were Catholic, and I went to a Catholic school. I came from this like indoctrinated idea of spirituality, and then going through university and doing biotechnology and forensic science, I was a complete agnostic. And then yeah, 16 months after I first picked up methamphetamine, so I found myself in prison. And then when I went to prison, I just, like, there was nothing rehabilitative or corrective about it. All I did was meet more customers and more dealers, you know. So every time I get out of prison, like at first was just like I went for like 2 grams or something and a couple of supply charges. And then every time I got out of prison, I'd start with just my crisis payment and my clothes on my back, and I'd talk some dealer into giving me credit, and I'll give you this much and I'll come back tomorrow and blah, 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 wheeling, dealing, hustling and saying whatever I needed to. But the thing was, I never fucked any one of them over. I needed that drug so much, man. I always made sure that I never burnt any bridges. I always had all these different people that I could go and see, all these different like matriarchal women that I could go and see, and I made sure that I kept my reputation intact so that I could have my drug every day. And I never thought of myself as an addict, because I looked at all these people around me and they couldn't afford food for their kids, and they were like going into psychosis and stuff. And I was in absolute denial. I just thought, oh, I'm killing it, you know. I've got this massive ego and all these people around me wanting to like be part of my life because I've got drugs and money. And it just got progressive, more progressive and more progressive. So every time I would go to jail, it was for more serious charges for a longer time. And then I'd get out and I'd get more and more gear and be like in more and more dangerous situations. And the people that I harmed when I did that, like not just because, you know, like you're selling gear to people that can't afford it, and they're not looking after their families and stuff like that. But people going into psychosis, and then just this real sick, manipulative, like emotional, psychological head fuckery, you know? Like I used to like get some sort of sick sense of power or something, or I'd go and fuck with people's heads, and I'm not proud of that. And then the last time I got out of prison, I started using GHB, and that was when, you know, like I had been trying to hold it together for so many years, but you know, I really became unmanageable. I couldn't deal drugs anymore to save my life, because I'd just fucking pass out without any clothes on, fucking wake up, no drugs, no money. The last time I got arrested, I was in Annalee somewhere. I didn't even know where I was. I didn't know what my name was. My fucking pants were in the tree. I was sitting in the gutter, and that was the lowest of my low of my drug addictions. And so I went to prison, and this time it was only for a short time, because I didn't get done with any large amount of drugs, because I was completely fucking useless as a dealer. And so I only went for 8 months, and I went to my first NA meeting in prison, and at this NA meeting was a woman that I used to use with, that I used to sell drugs to like 5 years ago. And she's like, I've got 4 years clean time up, rah, rah, rah. And we started emailing back and forth. And when I first went to that NA meeting, I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, I saw the steps on the wall, and I was like, how do you like hand your will and your life over? What are they even talking about? Who the fuck is God, you know? And I was just like, okay, I'll just go to NA meetings so I can get it like a letter for court, or say that I've been going to NA meetings for court and get a reduced sentence or whatever. But started emailing back and forth with this lady, and about 6 months in, I had an address, a bodgy address, and it got knocked back. And I just was saying to her in the email, like, my address has been knocked back. And eventually she said, look, you come and stay with me, on the condition that, you know, there's no men, no drugs, no alcohol. You go to meetings every day, and you've got to sign up for rehab. Got out of prison last year in February, signed up for rehab, got in 10 days later. And even 2 months into that, I was just like, oh, I'll just do this rehab program and then go back to using. You know, I didn't understand why people would not want to use drugs or live a straight life. I thought they were all fucking fuckwits, and that they were all in denial. And it was like, you just go to your 9 to 5 jobs, and you're all fucking miserable, and you wish you could have the junkie life like me, running around on the streets dealing drugs to fuckwits. And I just thought, I was like, these beliefs, this story that I had told myself, and these belief systems just fucking whacked out. And anyway, it was in a assignment group, and we were talking about reservations, and I just broke down crying, and I was like, maybe I do want this. Maybe I do want a better life for myself. Maybe I want to like give something else to my daughter. My daughter's 21 now, you know, and I've done a lot of damage, but you know, I did this, my mother did this, my grandmother did this, and I'll be fucked if I want my daughter to like perpetuate that same cycle, you know. And I just really started to listen, you know, and really started to put everything into it. And I've always really struggled with the higher power part of it. And just recently, my psychologist said to me, like, what is your high power? And I said, it's quite scientific for me, you know. It's like all the atoms and particles and energy in the world, you know, that's all been from the Big Bang. And we've like traveled in time and through space to get to this very moment where, you know, me and Ron are sitting here right now, you know. So all the stuff that we're made of and all that energy has always existed, man. So we're part of the desk, the computer, me, the trees, everything is all one thing. And it was part of this, like part of the stars millions and billions of years ago. So to me, you know, like that's my higher power. My higher power just wants the best for me and wants me to fulfill my purpose, whatever that is, man. Like, and I don't even know if we'll ever know what that truly is. Yeah, she said to me, do you pray outside of yourself? And I do pray to outside of that. And she goes, I'm feeling disconnected from it, and I've been in a lot of pain lately. And she said, well, how about you look inwards, because that higher power, if it's everything, then it's part of you too, you know. And I've been able to connect to that a lot more, and connect to like the feminine part of me, not feminine as in like what's socially acceptable as it feminine, but like that divine calmness and stillness, like the yin and yang stuff. And so I did the 6-month rehab program. I got out to exit house for 6 months, and now I've been living outside on my own for 6 months. And all the things that have come back into my life are the things that I wish so desperately for. And I find myself becoming ingrateful for those things, like the car, university, the relationship with my daughter again, starting to like break down some of the old stories about my distrust for women, that sort of thing, and constantly like doing things that perpetuate patriarchy and misogyny and stuff like that. I don't want to talk about gender too much, but yeah, I have all these things back in my life, and then I thought, you know, I put all these things in front of my recovery, like university and the job and the relationships and stuff like that. But I really let my program slip in the last 2 months, and I got into a relationship a little bit too early, and all that sex and love addiction stuff started to play out, and the obsession came back really quickly. So I've locked back into my program and doing my step work, and I find that's, you know, where it really benefits me. Yes, connection is important, but the step work allows me to pull back all these different layers. And I really like how it's like, it's progressive like the disease, as in like, you're not going to learn everything at once and you're not going to recover everything at once, but to pull back all these different layers. And it's like, this is so painful, but this short-term pain, always, every time I go through something really painful and it feels unbearable, on the other side of that, if I keep examining it with my step work and keep connecting with my sponsor, my higher power and service and other people, I know that there will be like a massive reward at the end of it, only because I've done that hard work. Yeah, so I can't speak highly enough of this program. Like, it's absolutely changed my life. Nothing before this has ever made me want to stop using or stop acting out on my behaviors with other addictions, food, sex, whatever it is. But yeah, this is where it's really at, and we're complex creatures, but it's a simple program in order to, you know, heal from some of those complexities. So yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, you're not getting out of that. You touched on a couple of things that I personally believe in, you know, and you know, the HP. When I came into a 12-step program in 1981, and I seen the word God in the 12 steps, I was like, fucking, I'm out of here. And it took me 5 years of, you know, 10 months, 12 months, 30 months of recovery, but still no surrender, because, you know, and I've had the same spiritual advisor sponsor now for 37 years, and he made me do a 4th step on my last relapse. So I did this writing on my last relapse and inventory on my last relapse. And then he said to me, how can you stay clean when you don't have a higher power? I go, what do you mean? He goes, do you trust your higher power? I said, no. He said, did you ever give your money to someone you didn't trust to score for you? And I went, fucking no way in God's earth. I shot the dope up, then I paid the money. You know, I didn't sort of give you the money to go away. I wasn't that dickhead, you know. And he said to me, well, how are you going to hand your will and your life over to something else that you don't trust it? And it was a revelation. And because I've been around a little bit of time, I did this, what would you call it? There's a proper word for it, I can't think of it. Now, I went on this crusade. I went to India, to the ashrams, to study the yoga and the meditations and everything. Then I went to Israel, walked the thing of Christ. I read the Quran, read the Bible, and I realised that everything I was looking for was inside of me. I've always said it was the universe. It's the feeling. It's something. It's a vibe. It's fucking, you know, like if you walk into a convention, you know, a 12-step program convention somewhere, you feel this energy, this fucking incredible vibe. You walk into some meetings and it's got this vibe, you know, and I realised that I was searching outside of myself for something that was inside of myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I could never find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was looking in the wrong place, you know, and the next thing you touched on was the onion, peeling that layer off. I was explaining to a client this morning, because he's going through his program for the first time. He's in the middle of his 4th step. And I explained to him, you know, like every time you go through this, we're peeling off another layer and you'll be more honest. And I was explaining to him, when it came to resentments, my mum was my world. She died when I was 19. She never seen me in active addiction, because I didn't start using heroin until after mum died. And I could never accept the fact that I had resentments to her. I didn't know that I resented my mum, you know, for staying with my father and all that stuff. And what happened was, after 10 years of going through this program over and over again, I realized that I had resentments to my mother. And it took me 10 years to get honest enough to look at that resentment.
Yeah.
It was so fucking relieving to go like, okay, I think that's to my mum, you know, and I've dealt with them, you know, and I've accepted the fact that she had her issues.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it is an incredible program. I love this recovery process. You know, I've watched you come in, I've watched you come out of jail, I've watched you change, you know. That's why I asked you to come on here, because this is the truth about addiction. Addiction is not a pretty thing. And I really liked what you said about the harm we cause when we're dealing. We don't realise that. We don't realise that. We're too self-centered.
Yeah, even up until like a couple of months ago, you know, I was like, you know, that's, if they're not going to get it from me, they're going to get it from somewhere else. And everyone's got free will and everyone's got their choice. But yeah, just it's bad juju, you know, to be contributing to that sort of thing, like to people own self-destruction, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm not enabling anybody to fucking harm themselves or others anymore.
Yeah.
And it took me 16 years to get to that point too.
Yeah.
I don't feel, you know, it's not a race. It's, you know, it happens as it happens. And as you said, a lot of the stuff that, the anger and the stuff that you felt as a child, it's all valid. But we have to just accept it and move on.
Yeah.
Fucking, you know, the quicker we take responsibility for what we do today, the easier it is to do what we do.
That's right.
While we're being victims of what we're doing, resentment, or while we're doing things like that. You know, but to me, the change I've seen in you has been miraculous. I've seen you going through a bit of pain the other day, and pain's about growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way I have to look at it, you know, and just that's what I'm talking about, the higher power too, man. I'm just trusting in the process. I know that all of it is for the right reason and it's for a benefit, even if I can't see what that benefit is right now, you know. And I'd rather be one of these people that are like going through pain and like examining it and going through this process than just be in pain on the rat wheel and have no idea what the fuck's going on. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're however many years old and you're just about to die and you're like twisted up on yourself because you have not had a look at any of this stuff. So
I always say this, you know, there's only two guarantees I make. If you continue using, your life will get worse. If you continue in recovery, your life will get better. I've never been proved wrong in 42 years.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had anyone come back to me after being 10 or 15 years clean and go, oh, this is fucked. I don't want to be, you know, or because I wish I had woke up hanging out this morning.
Yeah.
I wish I could have went and robbed someone this morning to get on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never had someone come up to me and go like, oh, or come back from a relapse and go like, fuck, it was pumping out there, man. It was the grouse. We all come back with our fucking ass out of our pants. I always come back through prisons.
Yeah.
Every time I used to relapse, I get arrested. That's my detox was prison.
Yeah. Same.
I never went to a rehab like, oh, I really want to hang out. Here's my you know, $3,000 for me to come to your detox. I got $3,000. I'm fucking stoned. I'm dealing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the only reason why I got clean too, is because I have to go to prison, you know, in the watch house, sleep for 7 days, and then but as soon as you get out, straight away starting again, except for this time. So
man, mate, it was the merry-go-round for me. It was just like fucking jail. And when I got back to jail, that's where all my friends were.
Yeah.
As soon as you get to the reception, you, hey, Chee, what's happening?
Yeah.
We got you a cell. We got you next to us.
Yeah.
It's all sweet. It's all done. It's all fixed up for us.
Yeah. And there's no responsibilities in there, you know. Everything's done for you. You just got to get up in the morning, make your bed. That's it.
That was one of the hardest things to me to come to terms with when they told me that I was powerless and unmanageable. I couldn't accept that because I spent 10 years in prison in active addiction before I got clean the first time. They rang a bell. I got up. They rang a bell. I went and had a feed. I had a muster. You know, like they put the food on my table. They gave me clean sheets. They gave me fucking clothes. How was I unmanageable?
Yeah.
That part was, you know, I really did think that for a long time that, you know, like I wasn't unmanageable. And then my last relapse, because I had information about NA, was fucking horrific.
Yeah.
I used against my will every single day.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was a way out, you know. And
I couldn't imagine that because this is my first like 12-step recovery, so I wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to relapse. I got a mate of mine. It was his birthday yesterday. He's 39 years clean, and I was helping him when he first came in before I relapsed. And he's never had to relapse 39 years. And that's why I say be nice to the newcomer. He might be your sponsor one day.
Yeah.
He's not my sponsor, but we've been mates, you know. And when he first came in, I said to my other mate, this fucker will never get clean, you know. He's so self-centered. He used to look at himself in the fucking window as he was walking down the street, and he'd be checking himself out in the windows. And I said, he's been clean since his first meeting.
Yeah, wow.
You know, so you can be that person too, and I want you to be that person.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you've got such a good message, and you've got because you are a walking, living miracle when you think about it.
Mm.
And you're educated, so that means you've got a brain, so therefore you can't justify using anymore.
Yeah, got to do something with it, eh?
Yeah, you got to use it.
Awesome message.
The gift that you've been given is to help other people that are going through the same stuff that we're going through and we've been through, and we do it by example. I would never be cleaned by a psychologist.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah,
or
psychologist-based drug intervention courses and all that in jail.
Yeah. Cognitive thinking. Fuck
yeah.
Cognitive thinking.
Yeah.
Fucking 16 years clean, I've still got a phone in my cell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, fuck your cognitive thinking. You know, like, it's not true. It's not real.
Mm.
If I got a guy that says to me, man, you can't have the phone in the unit because it's going to fuck us because we've got a good rort going on here and we've got a drug-free unit, I'll throw the phone away.
Mm.
That's for all of us.
Mm.
Yeah, that's for the greater good of the
people
for our group, you know. And that's the truth. That's what happened with us. You know, we had a rehab in prison. It was really nice. I was allowed to run a rehab in prison. I had a whole unit with 30 guys cleaning it. Unheard of. I'm a prisoner serving 18 years, and I'm fucking running a rehab. I'm 18 years clean, running a rehab in prison, with 30 guys who the worst of the worst, you know, because you end up in the drug unit, the ones that can't get fucking tick anymore, can't get any subby because they've been cut in the system.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a unit, there was 30 blokes cleaning it, you know, and a lot of those guys didn't stay clean. Excuse me. But they did stay clean. You know, they'd get 2 or 3 years out of jail. They hadn't been in jail for 3 months.
Mm.
You know, the revolving door, you get out, you get on, you fucking get pinched, you get out, you get on, you get pinched, you get out, you get on. You know?
No more than 8 to 10 weeks, you know, and then you're back in. Yeah.
Mate, if you come up, if you come in, if you spend 6 months out, you're like a fucking hero.
Yeah.
And especially as, you know, you had some fucking photos of a car, you'd bought a car while you were out, you're like fucking Don Corleone. He's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Ounces. It's like, ounces? Fuck. And it's just so nice these days not to have that life. That life today is it's like somebody else's. When I think about my life in crime, it's like it's somebody else's nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy anymore. That's not who I am.
Constantly looking over your shoulder, hey?
Yeah, it's not who I am. That's not what my heart tells me anymore. My heart doesn't tell me to, you know, to thieve and lie and cheat and steal and fuck it. And I don't like living in fear and anxiety and recovery is a fucking good deal.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's a fucking good deal, you know, and I'm really glad that I'm sharing it with you, Dole. I really am.
Thanks, Ron.
I really appreciate you coming on The Truth About Addiction.
No worries.
You be safe.
Thanks for having me.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.